Yes, guys, welcome to the Game Week 10 Deadline live stream. Now, if you are currently here live right now, do not be panicking. We have not got the deadline at 11 a.m. like usual. It is a bit of a later deadline, so you don't have to panic. You can have a nice, lovely, slow morning because the deadline is 1:30 p.m. UK time. I just thought I'd get that out the bat straight away because I know a few people are probably enjoying their mornings. And for me, having a lot of transfers right now and a late deadline actually causes more headaches than what it is worth. So I thought it would be right for me to jump on the stream now, get it done nice and early. Unfortunately, I can't stream later on because I play football and we kick off at 2 now. So I'm missing the deadline myself, which is a bit of a nightmare. So this is the perfect opportunity for anybody that's waking up on this dreary Saturday morning, if you are in the southwest of England right now, to go through our teams, analyse exactly what we need to do. And of course, I need to lock in a few transfers because I've made one already and there could be a few more. So let me know, guys, in the chat, what are your plans? Where are you tuning in from right now? And really, yeah, let's get into it because I feel like there's a lot to talk about going into this week. Of course, we had the dramas of possibly a blanket double game week. Doesn't sound like that's going to be happening now. And of course, a lot of people sat there with loads of transfers, a push towards Crystal Palace assets. So I do want to deep dive into all of that. So as always, drop a like on the stream if you are dropping in now. And let's get into some of these questions. Cyrus, hope you're doing well. God AEM, my team is getting right where I want it. Yeah, I do feel like a lot of people are sitting at a point right now where their teams are in a good spot. Obviously, people call them template. It is what it is. Unfortunately, this season, like many seasons, there are players that are just template for a reason. Sagun saying Senesi or Rodon to start this week. Well, of course, Senesi away against Man City, not a great fixture at all. But on the flip side, Rodon away against Brighton, I personally would lean more towards Rodon myself. I think both have defensive contribution potential, but I just think naturally Man City have more routes to goals against Bournemouth than that of Brighton against Leeds. I wouldn't actually be surprised if Leeds put up a good test against Brighton. Leeds' underlying numbers defensively have actually been okay. I know Brighton are a good team, but I actually think Rodon would nick it over Senesi this week. I've got Senesi firmly on my bench. No consideration to start him at all. Scott, hope you're doing well, mate. Semenyo to Mbeumo, Gabriel's saying. Well, for me, and we'll touch on some Bournemouth in a bit on this stream, I just think early doors, Semenyo is a player that isn't really doing anything to suggest we need to sell him. Remember, Bournemouth don't have any European football, and we're coming into that busy schedule right now. Of course, the later stages of the Carabao Cup, which I believe Bournemouth aren't in. Let me know if I've completely overlooked that one. No European footballs we discussed for Bournemouth. The players that we're buying to in Mbeumo is a good example of somebody who also doesn't have European football. But until I actually see something to suggest, you know what, we got to get rid of Semenyo, I think it's a bit of a luxury move. One that, if you really want to pull the trigger on, you might actually be a bit of an early adopter, because I do think at some point we will look at Semenyo, we'll look at the other options available and go, you know what, we just got to treat Semenyo now as not this essential player, but one that is a great option that we've held for a long time and we do have an affiliation to, but there are other options available. Is it this week? I don't know if it really is. I expect Forest to put up a good test against Man United with Sean Dyche, first game in charge at home. And Semenyo, we know what he can do on the counter-attack. If Bournemouth do lure in Man City in certain positions, I do think Semenyo has the opportunity to hurt them. I still anticipate Man City to win that game though. Scott's asking the question, I have Gyökeres and Igor Jesus and 0.8 million in the bank. Any advice on who to bring in? Well, with 0.8 million in the bank, I believe you can't do Igor Jesus to Mateta. The price difference doesn't really stretch you there, unfortunately. And really with Gyökeres, I'm in a similar position this week where I do feel like Gyökeres is a really frustrating player. But with the fixture against Burnley, I haven't seen enough right now to suggest that we have to force the transfer. And of course, selling Gyökeres probably then means that you have to bring in Bukayo Saka to cover yourself off in Arsenal offensive areas. So Gyökeres being sold probably does lean towards 2 transfers. So for that, I think I would probably just hold what you got. If you're looking to just do a direct sell of Igor Jesus, let me just remind myself a minute of what his price is, because I can't lie. He's never been a player that has ever been on my radar. So Igor Jesus is 5.8 million. So, you know, you can get to the 6.5s and that really is it. And at that price point right now, 6.5 million forwards. I mean, let me just bring up this a minute, what I'm showing you guys, so I'm not just looking at a bloody screen right now. I mean, Thiago as a pick, I don't love over the next few weeks, I'm going to be honest with you. I think there is a window where he's decent, but I don't really think it is now, I'm going to be honest. I think Danny Welbeck, if you really are done with Igor Jesus, now is probably the time to get Danny Welbeck. The game time's been fantastic. He has leads. Palace is tricky, but then, of course, Brentford, Villa, West Ham. I think Igor Jesus to Welbeck is not a bad move. I don't think we know right now under Sean Dyche who exactly is going to be the forward. So I don't think we can be in a position right now where we say to ourselves, Igor Jesus is still the main starter for Nottingham Forest. So I think Welbeck would be the play. Otherwise, I would go all the way down to Krupa Jr. if it enables you to make another move in your team, Scott. Joseph, got a free transfer to do Lacroix to Munoz. Would you go for it, or would you just hope for DEFCON and maybe for a corner goal for Lacroix? Yeah, so this is a really difficult one right now because, of course, if I just get the price points up of the Crystal Palace defenders for everybody, just to give a bit of context. So, currently in terms of the point scoring, we got Mark Gay top, but of course, he's had 1 goal and I believe 3 assists. I don't think that's sustainable over the course of the season. Then we take a look at Danny Munoz, 48 points. Then we got Lacroix at 42, and then Richards at 38. So we got to look at this as different sort of comparisons. So firstly, everybody's talking about defensive contributions. Lacroix top in the list, as we know. Then Richards, and then a big drop off to the likes of Mitchell, Gahey, and Munoz. So as of right now, if you're considering a Crystal Palace defender, I know Gahey's done fantastic, but I don't see enough right now to justify paying 0.5 million more to go from Richards to Gahey. So firstly, anyone considering Crystal Palace, I do prefer Richards to Gahey. Yes, Gahey does have more of a goal threat, but I just think the 0.5 million saved probably is worth it just going Richards as opposed to Gahey. Now, in your situation where you're asking to do Lacroix to Munoz, I do like the move. When we take a look at Munoz's underlying numbers this season, if we look at the expected goal involvement that you can see here, we're going to come down to the per 90 minutes, and it's 0.3 expected goal involvement per 90. It's decent, but it's not, unbelievable where I'm looking at it thinking, oh my God, this guy is absolutely a joke. So Munoz's numbers are good. We know that he has a haul in him. He had the 10-pointer against Bournemouth. He had a 9-pointer against Villa. And in terms of his defensive contributions, just for a bit of context here, he hit 11 against Bournemouth, he hit 16 against Everton, and he hit 11 against Aston Villa. So he still can hit them, but he's more like a 1 in 3 player as opposed to Richards and Lacroix, who are basically doing it every single game. So do I see enough right now for you to make your move of Lacroix to Munoz? I think Lacroix's numbers are probably going to be more consistent over the next 6, 7, 8 game weeks. And I do think the 0.5 million is one that you can do, but I personally think it's a luxury move that you got to ask yourself, does the additional transfer or money actually help the rest of your squad in future weeks? I probably wouldn't do it myself, no. Lisa, hi, is Neto from Chelsea a good pick on wildcard? I don't want Enzo. Would someone like Ndiaye be a better pick? Yeah, Lisa, so Neto for me will just always frustrate you. I think he is, more of a starter than not at Chelsea, but he is very droppable. What I mean by that is he's a workhorse. He's a good player. But with Pedro Neto, if he isn't delivering in terms of his wide crosses, he isn't really offering loads for this Chelsea team. And the reason why I say that is because Gitten's 1v1 is actually a bit more explosive than that of Neto. Esteban on that right-hand side is also very, very direct in 1v1 situations. So if Neto isn't actually provided good crosses into the box, he isn't really doing much in this Chelsea team. And the reason why I say that is because his work rate is great. Yes, that part of his game is good, but I do think there is going to be rotation as Maresca seeks different players in those wide areas. I don't think they're locked in right now. And could I see a game where he goes, you know what, I'm just going to play Gittins on one side, Esteban on the other, and we're just going to go 1v1 in those wide channels 100%. So I think Neto is a risk for you. I do still like Enzo as a pick. Ndiaye for me is a good option. And when we take a look at the fixtures coming up over the next 6 game weeks, I'm going to run these from game week 10 to game week 15. Sorry, I need a drink. Now, the reason why I'm looking over this period is because, of course, Then we start to get the 5 African Cup of Nations transfers. So you can kind of do whatever you want beyond that point. So really, when we look at the fixtures for Everton, Sunderland away is tough. Remember, they aren't Barcelona, but they are doing a really good job, Sunderland. So that is going to be a very, very equal affair. Then they got Fulham, Man United, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Forest. I think Ndiaye is not a bad hold for you over that period. But I would say Ismaila Sarr probably would be my number 1 pick. Yes, they do have a lot of European football that they have to contend with, so just be cautious of that. But the fixtures are really good over the long term, and I think Ismaila Sarr just has a bit more about him than that of Ndiaye. Morse Tretnik, hope you're doing well. What are some good defenders, Sag would say? Well, very difficult to answer because it's a very wide-ranged question. But Richards is good, as we know. We can kind of answer how... Sagan, maybe give me a bit more niche on the question for that one. Sander Open is saying -4 for Sanchez Torreira. I don't have double Arsenal defence. No, I never think a goalkeeper is worth it, especially for a -4. And Chelsea this week, away against Spurs, I do anticipate Chelsea to concede, but do I back a -4? Absolutely not in that scenario. 32D Audio is saying, I transferred Tarkowski to Gahey and Reinders to Sarr and Pedro to Gyökeres. I have 2 transfers left. Should I use that on my other players are okay? If your other players are all okay, then I would roll the rest of the transfers, my friend. I think the transfers you made are decent enough. Andrew, my question is, I'm 0.1 off Gabriel. Don't want to take a -4, so would have to play Decupia and hope he starts. Should I just wait a week? Then I could do the move for free or just move on to Calaflori. Yeah, so I do think Calaflori is a really good alternative. However, I think Gabriel is much, much better. Now, if we bring up the numbers right now for Arsenal defenders, because we do have to consider these, and I do apologise. Today, I'm just going to be flicking through the FPL official site, Scout, and all that, but I think there's enough on this right now for today to go through all the questions that are being asked. So, if we bring up the Arsenal defenders right now, in terms of defensive contributions, Gabriel is just in like another planet. 84 defensive contributions of Gabriel. The next best is Timber at 53, Saliba at 45, and Calaflori at 35. So when we bring up the player that you were discussing, Calaflori, however you pronounce him, in terms of his expected goal involvement, 0.27 per 90 is really, really solid. If we compare that to Gabriel's 0.11, we know that with Gabriel, when he does get his big chances, really, he's taking them from set pieces. Calaflori sometimes can be rogue shots from distance, so he does have that bit of X factor about him. Now, we spoke about the defensive contributions here. They're just non-existent. He might hit a couple of seasons, so you really are buying Calaflori for literally any sort of goal threat, which he definitely does have. Like XG, he's popping up with some opportunities here. But I just think he's a great player. I do think he's exciting, but I would hold off one more week and get Gabriel because I think the consistency of Gabriel's returns are going to be so much better. Now, maybe I've missed something on Ducupier. Let me just have a look a minute. Let me know in the chat, has there been any injury to him or not? But I would 100% play Ducupier at home against Leeds. I mean, when we look at his game time, it's been a bit sporadic. Started the last 2. You are rolling the dice a little bit, but yeah, I'd probably just play him and hope for the best, but maybe I've missed something on Decupia that you guys might have to update me in the chat. I do apologise on that. So I'm just checking to see if there's any news right now, and there's nothing obviously in the Twitter sphere. Debanjan is saying, hi Nacho, I have no Bournemouth defenders. I'm looking to replace Sells. I have North in the bank. Should I bring in Petrovic for Sells next game week? Well, Sells obviously is a bit of a nightmare right now, isn't he? Sells is a bit of a nightmare in terms of him. However, Sean Dyche is in charge now. We might see the return of Sells. I would say to you this. Going into this week, why would you be bringing in a Bournemouth defender for their game away against Man City? I think it's very clear. Keep Sells, roll your transfer, and then discuss this next week because Nottingham Forest actually are a bit of a differential. If we take a look at the fixtures here for Forest, Man United in game week 10, then Leeds, Liverpool. My eyesight's terrible. Brighton, Wolves, Everton. If Sean Dyche gets them to what they were at Everton, for example, we could see a really, really decent differential opportunity here for Nottingham Forest defenders. So I would be keeping Sells. You do not have to buy Petrovic when he is away against Man City. Then you reassess the following game week. I think that's a really easy one there, mate. Mustafa saying, from sunny Pakistan, have a great day. Have a great day as well, my friend. Start Reinders or King or get someone for Reinders. Have 6.6 million. Cheers. Okay, so firstly, I want to say you can start Reinders. And I'm saying that as a Reinders owner right now. I've looked at the predictors over on Twitter. Anyone that wants to check it out, Jump the Wave is the tag. They basically run through loads of predictors and they get the odds of players starting, and Reinders is at like 100% pretty much. So I think we are anticipating Reinders to start. Yes, he has been incredibly disappointing. And yes, his minutes have been very, very sporadic at times. And if we bring up Reinders right now in terms of what we are considering. So over this period, one of the best value picks in the game. But as you can see, as players are returning for Man City, his minutes are starting to diminish. Now, his numbers are still not too bad. 0.24 expected goal involvement per 90. And do I think Bournemouth have goals that could be conceded against them? 100%. I think they absolutely can concede. So I think Reinders is fine to hold. In terms of King, I don't know enough right now regarding Fulham to suggest whether he does start or not. So maybe let me know in the chat. I think personally, in your position, Reinders to Ismail Assar, getting it done as a direct move is a decent long-term move. I believe people are thinking out João Pedro with Mateta too early. I'm waiting after Chelsea plays Wolves before bringing in Mateta. That is absolutely fine. Now, let me just give you guys a bit of a context on why I sold João Pedro myself, as someone who's already done the move. So, really, when you sell a player, it very much comes down to, is there a better alternative out there? Are the fixtures kind for the player? And are we seeing enough right now? So we look at all these sort of things. Firstly, when I look at the numbers, because that's the big telltale for me. If somebody is getting the numbers, but they're not getting the FPL points, stay in my team. I'm absolutely fine with you staying in my team because I think eventually I back the player. However, I spoke about this in pre-season regarding João Pedro, and we spoke about this on many streams where we were keeping João Pedro. If you scroll down here to his point scoring, great season last year, but as we know, lots of penalties last season. 9 goals the season before that, 3 and a few assists. So João Pedro, when we take away penalties, has never been a prolific goal scorer. I think last season he had like 5 or 6 penalties in that goal scoring tally. So we know Enzo most likely is the penalty taker. So we got to take penalties straight out of João Pedro. Now, when we look at the numbers over the last time, this is when João Pedro was exciting. Since game week 4, his numbers have been 0.17, 0.03, 0.03, 0.03, 0.25, 0.02. It just ain't good enough. It just isn't good enough right now. Now, could João Pedro change things over this period? 100%. Could he do a bit on Spurs? Because João Pedro very much is one of those players that does like to step up in big games. Then it's Wolves, Burnley, Arsenal, Leeds. Absolutely, there is potential there. However, very, very difficult right now to not pull the trigger on this move when you're looking at a guy who in the space of 3 games has got more expected goal involvement than João Pedro over the course of the season. And I would argue the argument of keeping João Pedro is because of the fixtures, and I would say Crystal Palace's are better, if not the same. So when you kind of add all that in, 100% you can keep João Pedro. It is absolutely fine to do so, but the numbers aren't there. The numbers aren't there for over the last 2 months. Doesn't mean he can't score, but I just think when you have the opportunity with someone like Mateta in front of you, you kind of just take it. Now, what I will say is this. Does that mean Mateta's going to go on a goal-scoring run? Absolutely not. Could Mateta blank? Yes, 100% he can. But I just think there are more things about Mateta as a pick than that of João Pedro. Saliba to Calafori or risk it. Not in the bank, so can't do Timber. Only a Stave and Bijou on the bench. I don't really know whether Saliba's going to play. It doesn't sound great, does it? And Mascara can easily play as a right-sided centre-back, as we know. I probably would wait a week and just play one of your defenders. And of the two, I mean, I probably would play Bijou, probably, and hope for the best. But I don't know enough about him to know whether that was just a one-off start on that one. Jess Wood is saying, I have 7.9 million and I need a midfielder. Who should I put in? Well, again, let's get at the midfielders just for those that are watching this stream, just for a bit of context on where we are at. So if we put it by price, let's go all the way down here to, what was it, 7.9? So, I mean, straight away, Cunha is an option, but I don't feel desperate to bring in Cunha. I don't know the rest of your team, obviously. I think first and foremost, we got to come down to the players that are being spoken about. And really, first, I think Enzo is good, but he isn't a buy this week. I think Ismaila Sarr is the one. I really do. I think the numbers are good enough. Obviously, he's had his injury around this period here. But I think the numbers are good enough. And I think Ismaila Sarr would be the one if you don't own him already. Right, I think, because I still have a lot of questions to go through, I think I might just go through what I'm thinking right now, guys, on my team, and then hopefully give a bit of context going into this deadline. So let's just get my team up right now, as you can see. So this is how the team's looking right now. As I've spoken about, I made my transfer already early doors. Sold João Pedro, brought in Mateta. I know it's really mainstream, but as I discussed a couple of minutes ago, there was just nothing really for me to keep João Pedro, I'm going to be honest. And I think Mateta was just there for the taking. And for a bit of context, for those that don't know, I had 5 free transfers. I got 4 left over, and I had 0.8 million in the bank. I now got 0.6. So again, in my position, I do ask you guys, if you had 5 free transfers and João Pedro sitting in your team, I'm pretty convinced you would do the João Pedro to Mateta move as well. I think if I had 1 transfer, I would actually deliberate maybe keeping João Pedro. Now, in terms of the rest of the team, if I rolled out this team, I think it's absolutely fine. I'm going to be honest with you. Double Arsenal, great. Anderson, I'm just going to take the risk now. In Silva's press conference, he said that Anderson is definitely available for selection. I'm going to read that into him. He's starting. Then we got Tarkowski away against Sunderland. Then, of course, we've got the midfield of Ndai, Bruno, Semenyo and Reinders, and a front three of Haaland, Mateta and Gyökeres. So, few things firstly. 1, I'm not selling Gyökeres this week. He is so damn frustrating. And again, we spoke about this in pre-season. After looking at a few people who actually know their stuff about football, they came to the conclusion that Gyökeres wasn't really the signing for Arsenal that they needed. However, they did agree that he could be a stat pad player, where his returns might come in the games where actually Arsenal might need him in, like Burnley away. Games where sometimes they wouldn't blow the opposition out of the water. So I'm going to give Gyökeres the chance here, because when I look at the actual fixtures that he has played, so obviously played Crystal Palace here. I don't care what anyone says. Fulham away is always a tough game. Then West Ham at home, yes. That was probably the game that I was hoping some returns. But were the numbers there? Yes. 0.68 expected goal involvement. Newcastle away, I'm never going to judge a player. So too that of Man City. Then against Nottingham Forest, he actually did score. Then he had Liverpool away when Liverpool were actually not too bad. Then he had Leeds at home where he got his returns. And then Man United away, I'm not judging him. First game in the Premier League. So coming into these 2 games, I would actually make the argument that if we do view Palace as a tough team, which they are, Fulham as a tough team away, Newcastle, City tough games, Liverpool tough game, Man United away, first game in the Premier League, I'd only say he's had a couple of games where I really can judge him and say to myself, you know what, you are rubbish. You are a terrible FPL option. So I'm willing to give him the chance here because the numbers are okay in the games that I would expect them to be okay in. Leeds at home, Forest at home, West Ham at home. The numbers were there. So I'm going to give him the chance against Burnley and then reassess. So I'm not doing the Gyökeres flip to Saka. That isn't happening at all. So in terms of the rest of the team, problems. Well, the big problem here is I have a bench boost available and I need to somehow be able to play it in future weeks. And Reinders. Now, how much of a problem really is Reinders? I don't think he's horrendous this week. Bournemouth at home, I expect Man City to score goals. I anticipate Reinders to start, but I do anticipate 70 minutes for Reinders and then probably getting subbed off. So we're probably looking at a 70-minute Reinders as opposed to something else. Now, the issue is that if I sell Reinders, really, the players that I want to go to, I've got to make another transfer. So, just to give you guys a bit of context on what we're looking at, if we were to get rid of Reinders, the player really I would like to bring in is Ismail Assar. Very template, I know, but I think Ismail Assar just makes a lot of sense. But that means I've got 0.4 million that I have got to free up in this team. And also, remember, I need to play a bench boost at some point. So I can't just sit here and go, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of Stack and then we're going to put him down to a dead player and the move is done. Because I unfortunately need this spot available. And right now, there isn't any guaranteed player in the midfield area that is cheap as chips. So I think my money is going to have to come out of Tarkowski this game week. Now, when we look at Tarkowski as an option, he's been quite disappointing. But what we do know is that the defensive contributions are quite consistent. He's basically averaging 11 per 90. So most of the time, he is going to, whether or not get a clean sheet, get a few points in defensive contributions. And we've seen this here. So when we look at the fixtures coming up, how playable or how many clean sheets do I anticipate? Well, there definitely could be one against Sunderland. There could be one in game week 11. But after that, United, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Forest, Chelsea, Arsenal. I don't really think there are many. So I'm willing to part ways with Tarkowski this week, and I don't think I would move to an Everton defender, I'm going to be honest. So selling Tarkowski gives me 5.1 million in the bank, which is actually quite a decent amount of money that gives me flexibility. So when we look at the players available at the price points, what we do have is, if we just come all the way down to 5.1, we can go to Lacroix, which I've spoken about this. Lacroix and Guéhi I like, but do I think they are worth 0.5 million more than Chris Richards? No, I don't. So I don't really consider them as options. Then we come down to the other picks. None of these here really scream value to me. Then we take a look at the rest. We're just coming down the page right now. O'Reilly, no. Botman, no. Chow is a consideration. I do actually like him as a pick. However, I still don't love Newcastle defensively, so I think I'm going to avoid Newcastle. Livramento would have been a pick, but he's obviously out right now. Van der Ven, the fixtures are not good enough for me to justify buying. So we're starting to come down to the 4.5s already if I were to dismiss the 5 million Crystal Palace options. And then by default, really, we are landing on Chris Richards. And it's very, very boring. But when we look at the fixtures coming up and the defensive contributions of, I believe it's 10.78. If I'm anticipating a few clean sheets and also defensive contributions, how can this guy not be as good as some of the 5 millions out there? So for that reason, that is very template. But I think it makes a lot of sense for my team. Reinders to Sarr, Tarkowski down to Richards, still gives me 2 free transfers for the following week and 0.6 million in the bank. That's where I'm currently at. I'm going to get a little bit of a thought process on you guys because I massively rely on you guys for, opinions. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on here. You guys offer so much opinion and it's always great to kind of get you guys voting on the team. I swear you guys have saved me so many times, I'm going to be honest. Like, I swear some of the times I have a 50-50, you guys give me the call and it usually comes in pretty well. Would you make the move Reinders and sorry, I'm just having to type it out right now, but I'm so slow at typing. Tark to Richards and yes, no. Sorry, a selfish poll, but I just wanted to put it in there right now, just to give you guys a bit of an idea on whether you would make this move or not. One thing I will say about Crystal Palace is that we are in a position right now where they got a lot of fixtures. So I am a little bit concerned about that, but is what it is. Right, let's get back into the chat because I'm conscious I've taken up a lot of your guys' time. So let's take a look at this. Would you say Mbeumo and Bruno is bad double up? No, but I wouldn't be doing it this week. The reason why is I think he got a couple of tough fixtures, Man United. Forest away with Sean Dyche in charge, difficult, and then Spurs away afterwards. After that, a decent long-term run with no European football. I do like the double up, but do you have to force it this week? Probably not, I would say. Mahmoud saying bench one, Semenyo, Minter, Enzo, or Gakpo. Whew. Okay, I would definitely start Minter. I think I would start Gakpo, because I think he will start and he's been a threat in that Liverpool team. So it comes down to Semenyo versus Enzo, and both highly owned, both on penalties, we think. Fixture a bit more maybe in Enzo's favour, but I probably would bench Enzo controversially on that one. Rat Dog, what a name. Hope you're well. Thoughts on Sarr plus Gui perma bench or Thiago plus King perma bench? I think I'd prefer, as of this week, Sarr and Gui as opposed to Thiago and King. I also don't really know whether King is going to keep his place in that Fulham team or not. Is Gabriel a good captaincy pick? Yes. Do I think he's got a higher ceiling than that of Haaland? Probably not. And by the way, has anyone been watching Erling Haaland's YouTube channel? Sorry, how am I? Dropped 2 videos and I'm obsessed. Like, the guy comes across so damn well. I kind of want to hate him, but he just comes across a legend. So anyone that hasn't checked it out, go check out Erling Haaland's YouTube channel. It's definitely the way that footballers are going right now, trying to find a bit of a life outside of football. And Maddison's been doing it, and obviously Haaland's been doing it. It's a decent watch, unless you're a Man United fan, of course. Hello, Paqueta to Minter. Yes, I do like that move. Now, Minter's getting a lot of love right now. I don't know if I still got my slide up regarding Minter. I do think I've got rid of it. No, I haven't got it anymore. I do apologise. Okay, so in terms of Minter right now as an option, let's just get him up. And again, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, I really do appreciate if you could drop a like. We always aim for 50. I don't know what we're at. Are we close to 50? 26. If you guys could get us to 50, that would be absolutely awesome. Always aim for 50 on these streams. Okay, so Minter as a pick, I do like. I do like Minter as a pick. Now, is he frustrating? Definitely. I really do think he is, but not from a minutes perspective. Anyone that kind of owned him as a fleeting player last season will know that his minutes were all over the shop. That isn't the case now. He started every game, 90 minutes in the majority. No European football for Brighton. So his game time is looking great, and he's only 4% owned. Now, when we take a look at the expected goal involvement right now for the season, it's currently sat at 0.39 per 90, which is looking decent. And I think he is a great player in general. When we look at the fixtures coming up, like some good fixtures, Leeds at home, but it's worth noting Leeds' underlying numbers defensively are actually not too bad. Palace, Brentford, Forest, Villa, West Ham, and again, remember, no European football for Brighton over this time. The only thing about Brighton, and maybe any Brighton fan in the chat, let me know if I'm being a little bit harsh towards this, but I always feel like sometimes Brighton perform in the big games and don't necessarily step up in the games that you are expecting them to win. Maybe that is a really harsh criticism there, but, you know, maybe this kind of reflects it as well when we look at the returns here for Brighton. A loss against Man United, of course, and Man United did look good that game, but beating Newcastle, beating Chelsea, beating Man City, but then the games are in and around them, you'd expect them to, you know, at least get a result. Loss against Everton, you know, draw against Wolves, loss against Bournemouth, draw against Fulham. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I do feel like sometimes the harder the run, sometimes almost the more I feel like Brighton could perform in. Minter's good. Minter is a good pick, yes. I think the numbers are solid, but I do think that he is a bit of a purple patch player at times that could frustrate you in your teams. On wildcard, Gahey or Senesi, I'm going to be honest with you, this is a really difficult one because when we look at the fixtures right now for all teams over the next 6 game weeks, Bournemouth, I don't anticipate a ton of clean sheets. You know, City away, then Villa away. West Ham in 12, yes. Sunderland, Everton, you know, that 4 could be great. When we look at Crystal Palace, I do think they probably have better fixtures. But what cannot be dismissed is no European football for Bournemouth and European football for Crystal Palace. And I think the strength and depth of Palace is not really there. So for that reason, the players that you're discussing, Guehi and Senesi, I probably would just lean towards Senesi myself. Because I don't think the argument is Guehi or Senesi. I think it's almost Lacroix or Senesi, because Lacroix is a very different profile, similar profile to Senesi, gets defensive contributions. Guehi doesn't really get them all the time. So I think really, if you can get Richards and Senesi, that is a decent combination. Simon saying, play Bowen or Richards this week. Wow. I'm going to be honest. If you own Bowen and you don't start him, I would ask the question, why are you keeping him? I probably would start him myself. Because it's just a lot of money to be benching with Jarrod Bowen. I appreciate West Ham are terrible right now. Hillbilly, good day, mate. On wildcard and currently have... By the way, I didn't say that. They said that. I'm just saying I don't talk like that. I currently have Sarr, Ndiaye and Mbeumo. Would you let AFCON put you off going all 3? No, definitely not. The reason being is they're giving us transfers to address the situation. So what I will say is this. If you are wildcarding right now, I would try and do so with the anticipation of them maybe rolling a few transfers over this period. So then what you can do is when we get towards game week 15, you know, when we start to get the African Cup of Nations transfers, 5 given to us. Remember, it's 5 maximum. So if you have 4 transfers, you only get 1 extra. If you have 1 free transfer, they give you 4. You don't get 10 free transfers in total. So I think wildcarding into those players is absolutely fine. But make sure that your wildcard, obviously barring injuries that you can't predict, is really watertight, that allows you to roll in 11 at least, just to give yourself a bit of a buffer that you can sell off those players before they actually go to the African Cup of Nations. Because I believe game week 15 is the last week we're going to see these players before they go off. Let me know if I got that wrong. I do apologise. But let's take someone like Ismaila Sarr as an example. You could sell him before Fulham away if you wanted to. If you look at who's the other players you mentioned, Ndiaye has Forest at home, so you probably would keep him for that. And then, of course, your last player that you mentioned is Mbeumo. In game week 15 has Wolves away. So you probably are keeping most of those until the very moment that they have to go off for the African Cup of Nations. You reckon I do Tarkowski to Richards and Reinders to Sarr for a -4? No. I'm going to be honest. All of a sudden, when it becomes a -4, I actually think I would just keep those players that you discussed. Could Tarkowski get a clean sheet? 100%. Could Reinders get something? Yes. Do I think Sarr plus Richards is going to outscore that combination by 4 or more points? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. And I see got a super chat here from Mark. I really do appreciate that, Mark, on that one. Very generous. Bench 1 this week. Calaflori, Semenyo or Thiago. Okay, so firstly, the only rotation risk in that team is Calaflori, and I think he definitely starts. So we can't really consider that now. Really, with Brentford's game that they do have against Crystal Palace, I think that's an okay fixture. I don't think Palace are completely watertight defensively. So for me, I probably would say you can't be benching Calaflori because there's Arsenal coverage in that defence. So it comes down to Semenyo or Thiago, and I personally would bench Thiago. I probably would bench Thiago in that scenario, mate. Try not to miss any questions. I'm trying to be really thorough today on this one. And again, for anyone that's tuning into this right now, just a little bit of a reminder, you're not on this stream with the deadline being 11 a.m, so don't panic. It is 1:30 p.m. UK time. I just had to go early because I'm playing football later on and I'm going to be missing the deadline and I can't do it later. So hopefully this is just providing a little bit of morning value. You don't have to make your transfers yet, but of course, if you can get yourself in a position where at least you know what you want to do, then when the usual people come on at 11 a.m, you can jump onto their stream. They might give you a bit of a different opinion and hopefully that will bring you to some sort of conclusion on what you want to do with your teams. And I can see here in the poll, I don't know what that accent was there, so I had coffee in my mouth. Would you move, I put in the poll, and this is a selfish question, Reinders and Tarkowski to Richards and Sarr? 86% of people are saying yes, and 14% are saying no on that one, which is quite significant where that is leaning towards. Just to give you guys a bit of context on my situation, if I was to make those moves, and again, I don't know if it is the right move. I think the combination of Tarkowski and Reinders could outscore that of Richards and Ismaila Sarr, but it's more a case of understanding what have you got for the following week. So my team would look like this for game week 10. Going into game week 11, if we assume there are no injuries, we can't really predict these things, I think that team kind of picks itself, and I would have 3 free transfers available. And when we look at the actual fixtures, what am I missing? Well, I haven't got Everton defence against Fulham, ironically, after selling Tarkowski, but again, I'm not desperately feeling like I need that. I got no West Ham, I don't really care about that. I've got my Arsenal coverage. I haven't got any Chelsea against Wolves, which is a little bit concerning, but do I think Chelsea are quite unpredictable right now? Yes, and that's coming from a Chelsea fan. I've got my Palace against Brighton. Nothing in the Brentford-Newcastle game, but again, I think that's one quite difficult to predict. No Forest against Leeds. I'm allowing myself a bit of time on Forest to understand if they are actually a team to invest in. Villa against Bournemouth. Again, we have got only Semenyo and Senesi, and I would be probably benching Senesi at the time of recording in that scenario. And then nothing Man City, Liverpool that I feel like I need to invest in. So this one feels like a very easy week 2 roller transfer. And if we were to flip it back, if I didn't make my transfers, I would be having Tarkowski instead of Richards for the Fulham game, which is good. But I'll be having Reinders at home against Liverpool instead of Ismaila Sarr. So I'll be making a transfer regardless in Reinders' position. So I think for that, it kind of justifies the move. Then when we come into game week 12, I'll have 4 free transfers for this week. And once again, the team kind of picks itself. I mean, I feel very tempted to play Ndiaye away against Man United. And my defence looks good, but I'd have to play Senesi in this scenario. So maybe Senesi in instead of Richards, but it doesn't feel great. Or instead of Ndiaye, if we do think suddenly Man United are incredible. But regardless, what I'm trying to say is this. I actually think on my bench boost in game week 12. So Dubravka at home against Chelsea. I'm going to be honest with you. I would not be surprised if Burnley gets some sort of result against Chelsea. And that's from a Chelsea fan. So in this particular week, I actually think a bench boost could be on the cards. If I can get rid of Stack in this scenario and get myself to a player that actually enables something, then I think that is definitely a potential move for me in this scenario. So I just wanted to give you a bit, guys, of context that a bench boost in 12 is absolutely on the cards for me. I think I can make it work. I need to see some things from certain players, but even selling Gyökeres down to, let's say, if Krupa Jr. is still the player and he's available for the West Ham game, if he's still the guy, then Gyökeres down to Krupa Jr. is absolutely a possibility. We could do Stack up to Saka. I'm 0.1 million short on that one, it's worth noting. A little bit frustrating, but I would still have another transfer available to me. So I could make another move in order to enable this transfer combination. And then really, my bench boost would be Dubravka, Senesi, Krupa Jr. if we assume he's starting, and Rodon at home against Villa. I would just make this work, by the way. I would just make another transfer that would actually enable these moves. So that's what I could be looking for game week 12. I'd make that work somehow. Somehow I'd make it work. So yeah, this team is absolutely a playable team in game week 12 on the bench boost. And then going into game week 13, again, triple Arsenal against Chelsea. I legitimately don't think that is a terrible thing. Senesi would come in probably for Anderson. And I'll still have 3 free transfers in this game week to do whatever I want, really. So that's the current long-term plan. Just giving you guys a bit of an update on that. Sorry, I'm just seeing if that's anyone at the door. No, it's not. Right, let's get back into the chat. Moved Bruno to Mbeumo last night to free up funds to get Mateta, JP out. What do you think of the moves? Yes, I don't mind it. Would I do Bruno to Mbeumo myself this week? No. However, you've done it to free up funds to make another move, then I do think that is a good play. I would still say Ndai is better the option than Sarr. He has DEFCON pens and they both have AFCON. Yep, that's why I'm keeping Ndai on my team myself, mate. Will triple captain Voldemada as a differential. Hey, I don't hate it. Like, we get 2 triple captains this season, so you could go rogue if you want to, knowing you got a second one in the second half of the season. Not against it, mate. Like, would I do it myself? No, I wouldn't. But do I think it's like a fun move? Yeah, I do think it's a fun move. Who should I bench? João Pedro, Reinders, or Rodon? For me, I think the answer there would be Rodon. Should I change Gyökeres and Pedro to someone? For me, Pedro to Mateta is a move that I just can't really not advise because I've done it. But the situation with Gyökeres, I'm content keeping him for another week. Keane to Anderson, a good move. Keane to Anderson, what, this week? No, I'll just keep Keane, personally. I'll keep Keane this week. Play Minter or Enzo. Oh, look, if you've got Minter at home against Leeds, I think I would play Minter. However, what I would say is Leeds' underlying numbers haven't been too bad as a team. Ollie, hope you're well, mate. Morning, Nacho. Sorry I had a nice sleep in today. Lovely stuff. Hope everyone's well. Out of the teams that I sent on WhatsApp, I made the 4 transfers. One would you recommend making the other 2? I'll take a look at that in a minute, Ollie, but it looks like you've already made the moves that you said. Hello, how can I help? Caleb, you put your team in. I'll definitely try and check it out for you. Who would you bench, Chalobah or King this week? Well, Chalobah is not playing well right now. Do I still think he starts? Probably yes. But do I think they keep a clean sheet? Absolutely not. So I would roll the dice on King myself and hope that he plays. It's a good fixture against Wolves. I probably would go for that. Is there any goalkeepers you recommend? Don't feel confident with Vicario and Dubravka anymore. Well, goalkeepers, it does come down to fixtures somewhat. What we have available to us. I don't mind Verbruggen as a pick, but Brighton just don't really keep many clean sheets at all. I mean, Henderson is a pick, but the Palace defenders are there for the taking for defensive contributions. So it's very difficult for me to suggest going for a Palace. So, you know, I probably would just stick what you've got. I don't think the goalkeepers are worse enough for you to force a goalkeeper transfer. Sorry, I got the hiccups right now. I think the goalkeepers is just a spot where whatever you got, you just kind of keep. Like I said, this season's very different. I'd look at those Palace fixtures and say to you, go get Henderson. But the defenders now with defensive contributions make them so much better than that of goalkeepers. Hence why a lot of people are saying Raya isn't a great pick, because the defenders offer so much more, and you're spending 5.5 million on a goalkeeper that basically has a ceiling in a 6 because they don't concede any shots, so he's not getting any save points either. Therefore, bonus points don't really happen for David Raya. If we look at the actual goalkeepers, just to give you a context, because I honestly don't think there's a standout goalkeeper this season that you can go for. Let's just run off some things that you can actually analyse. So, if we bring up the goalkeepers right now, first and foremost, let's just take a look at saves. Like, let's take a look at actual saves, because that obviously accumulates additional points. Dubravka top, Roofs, or however you pronounce it, second, Sells third, Leno, Petrovic. I mean, you come down here, David Raya has made 16 saves in 9 games. It just is really nothing. And we know that, like, they're not exactly conceding loads of other shots because they haven't conceded any goals. Whereas someone like Martinez, even though he's made 15 saves, he may have conceded a load and he's just not preventing them. So we know with Arsenal, they're not conceding shots and Raya's not making many saves, basically. So the other thing is bonus. Like, who's actually picking up the bonus points when it comes to goalkeepers? Well, again, the goalkeepers that are making the saves. Roos at Sunderland, picking it up. Vicario, again, 5-pointer. Raya has got a 3-pointer, and the one that come in was let me just take a look. So he got his 3 points in the very first game against Man United. And I believe that is because he made a fair few saves. Yeah. So look, just for a bit of context on David Raya. This is outrageous. He made 7 saves in his first game against Man United. And he's made 16 saves this season. And a reminder, Arsenal have conceded 3 goals. They've conceded 3 goals. So they've conceded 3. David Raya has made 16 saves, and 7 of those have come in game week 1. So he literally does not touch the ball. So David Raya, fine if you own him right now, but I wouldn't be buying him. It's basically the way I would look at it. That's a ridiculous stat. I didn't realise 7 of those come in game week 1. Would you play Caicedo or Doku? Oof, I have no idea whether Doku is actually going to play or not. That is a really difficult one to predict. What I would say is this. If you own Doku, look, I think Caicedo, by the way, will hit defensive contributions against Spurs. So you're probably looking at a 4-pointer from Caicedo. If you own Doku, you know that you literally will never know when he's starting. So me sitting here right now saying to you, I would play Caicedo because I don't know whether Doku's going to start. That literally is going to be the argument every single week. Like, I've never seen a pattern in which we know exactly when Doku is going to play. And now, every single week that we pass by, you are going to question it because Marmoush is now back, Cherky's available, all these sorts of players. So, I would go Doku. However, you know the risk, but end of the day, Damien, you wouldn't have bought him if you didn't know the risk with Doku. So for me, you can never predict Doku starting. Therefore, I would just play him. And you knew the risk when you bought him. My captain this week is going to be Haaland. I don't have Bukayo Saka to rival it. And I think nobody in my team right now justifies really being a captaincy alternative to that of Erling Haaland. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit off the chat right now. Just trying to play catch up a second. Start Xhaka or Semenyo for me. Semenyo. We saw Semenyo do the business at Anfield. And I do think there will be opportunities for Bournemouth to counter Man City. But of course, they will play Kusanov to counter the pace that Bournemouth do have in that game. King should be starting for Fulham because of Smith Rowe fitness. Smith Rowe might come off the bench. Yeah, that's a fair point. Good bit of insight there. Tebow, good morning, everyone from California. Absolutely sick. I would love to be there right now. Love to be there. Start Van der Ven, Vandenberg, or Rodon. Ooh, I think if I owned Van der Ven, I probably would be tempted to start him in the home fixture. Considering the other two are away from home, I would lean towards Van der Ven. Would I bench Van Heck or Enzo? Oof, that is tricky because, and I just want to make sure I am correct, I believe Van Heck is actually decent for defensive contributions. Yeah, he's really good for defensive contributions. But Enzo is a penalty taker, and Spurs, of course, can concede. I think the logical answer is Van Heck, but can you bench Enzo being the penalty taker? Probably not. So I think you should start Enzo. However, I really do think that Van Heck should be a debate starting alongside any other defender in your team. So question who else you have in your defence right now and who's starting ahead of Van Heck. Homegrown FPL saying, Sarr worries me with his injury record and a very tough schedule. I'm pretty sure he got injured last year once people bought him. But yeah, that's fair. I think injuries is a difficult one. If there is a player who is just made of glass and they are just always out and they come back and they get injured again, I think that is historical information that we definitely can take into future decisions that we make 100%. Do I think there's enough of that right now with Sarr? Maybe I'm overlooking his injury record. Maybe I might have to take a look at it. But would it put me off buying him? Probably not, I would say. But I do agree with the thought process of them actually struggling at times over this period because of the fixture congestion. And it does put me off slightly going for a triple Palace because it almost feels one of those sort of situations where if Palace were to struggle over the next 6 game weeks, I just wouldn't be surprised. Like, I don't think anybody would. Let me just get up their fixtures just for a little bit of understanding. Give me 2 seconds. Crystal Palace fixtures. Here we go. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. Cool. So just a bit of context on Crystal Palace here. So they're playing today against Brentford. They then play Thursday against AZ Alkmaar, which is at home. It's worth noting that is quite a considerable thing. Sorry, the lighting's terrible right now in here. Then they've got on Sunday Brighton. Then we've got the international break. I know, another international break. So then we are back to resetting the teams. But then Wolves, Thursday they're away against Strasbourg. 3 days later they got Man United. 3 days after that they got Burnley. 4 days after that they got Fulham. Then they got Shelbourne in the Europa League or the Conference League. Then 3 days later they got Man City. 3 days after that, don't know if that's correct, they got Arsenal. Then they're going to have another Europa League game. Then they're going to have Leeds 3 days later. Then they're going to have Tottenham 7 days later. Ugh, that is not good. And it does put me off buying Crystal Palace. I'm going to be honest with you. It does put me off buying Crystal Palace over the long term. That ain't good. Guys, let me know in the chat. What are your thoughts on this schedule right now? What are your thoughts on this schedule? Do you think... I'm going to come back to the chat, the top part. But anybody right now, what's your opinion on this? Like, do we just ignore it and we just say, like, you know what, Crystal Palace are a good team, they're just going to crack on and get it done? Or do we look at this and think, actually, this is crazy? Like, the one thing I will say is this. If we just take it into chunks right now, because remember, it is kind of like FPL, you can just sell a player. Really, we're only looking at Palace playing today, playing Thursday and playing Sunday. Like, let's just break it down. The first part, do I think Palace are a good investment for today and for Brighton and AZ Alkmaar? They maybe have a tiny bit rotation, but they don't really have the strength and depth. Then yes, I think that's a nice chunk. International break. So let's not put the first part with this. It's the next part. The next part is actually hideous when you read it. And Burnley away is not a great game. And Fulham away is not really a great game. So what you're really getting, and Wolves off the back of the international break, maybe with a new manager in charge. So really, we're buying Crystal Palace for the next 2 weeks. I believe that. I believe we're buying Palace for the next 2 weeks because once we get into this run here, this is so difficult. And I don't think they can just rest people. So this is my question right now. Is that a busy enough schedule to really want to buy Palace? And the more I look at it, the more I think, I'm glad I got Mateta for Brentford and Brighton 100%. But piling in on Richards and Sarr, I think will pay dividends in the next 2 weeks. And me sat here right now with 4 free transfers, I've got the luxury to do that. But do I think there is going to be fatigue at some point for Palace? Definitely. There's just got to be. We'll keep it up. I'll see you guys' thoughts, but I want to come back to the chat a minute to make sure I've at least gone through all the good stuff here. So, Welbeck or Minter, I think I prefer that guy Welbs, but I think Minter's easier to get to this week. Start Reinders or Gravenberch? Start Reinders or Gravenberch? I would start Reinders because I don't actually know if Gravenberch is 100% available. Thomas said, hey mate, oh well mate, should I do João Pedro de Valdemada or Porro to Calaflori? Dropping JP would mean playing Anderson. Well, if that's Anderson the way you spelt it with the Fulham Anderson, happy days, you want to start him. So I think João Pedro de Valdemada is actually a decent move. Porro is eating up a lot of your budget right now, and I do like the Calaflori pick, but JP to Valdemada, probably, I like that move. Dawn, hope you're well. Which one? Bruno Gyökeres stack to Sarr, Thiago, Saka -4. I'm just gonna. Are you having to play stack this week? Let me know if you're having to play stack this week, Dawn, because that kind of changes things a little bit with the -4. Bruno and Gyökeres. I feel like stack is just you're upgrading them effectively. Bruno and Gyökeres to Saka, Sarr, and Thiago. Okay, so I think I can answer this in general. I wouldn't make any of these moves, and I think that's a simple role, especially if Stack is actually on your bench and you're just including him in this conversation because you're trying to improve that pick. I think for this week, all the players that you're saying that you could bring in are great, but I think the boys that are in your team are perfectly fine. Start Anderson and Mukiele. I would start Anderson myself. Buy Sarr and Mbeumo. If you can afford Mbeumo, he would be my preference over Ismaila Sarr. Why would you do? Would you do João Pedro de Voldemada as a differential to Mateta? Already got Henderson, Sarr, and Munoz. Yes, I think that's a good move. I will say in the same breath, like I've said, you absolutely can keep João Pedro 100%. Like, he definitely is a player that could do well, but have I seen enough over the last few months to justify it? Not really. Not really. People saying the Palace squad small. Yes, I do agree on that one. Mateta plus Richards instead of João Pedro and Romero, or Welbeck and Sarr instead of João Pedro and Reinders. I probably do prefer Mateta and Richards instead of João Pedro and Romero because I think Spurs' fixtures do start to toughen. Starting Pope, Chalobah, Burn, Timber, Gabriel, Saka, Semenyo, Enzo, Voldemada, Haaland, Mateta, bench King, Senesi, Anthony. That picks itself, that team. I think King has the argument to start in that team, but I don't really see who he would start over. I would make the argument King over Chalobah, but it really is a luxury move that you are hedging that King starts against Leeds. That's it, really. Don't have money, need help. Oh, I've covered that one. I've covered that one off. Abel, hope you're doing well. Virgil to Timber for triple Arsenal defence. I'm not as for the triple Arsenal defence because a lot of people are talking right now in the breath saying like Arsenal don't score open play goals. They're just going to eventually. They just are going to eventually score goals. Like, there's no way this Arsenal team goes the whole season just relying on set pieces and all. They're just going to click at some point. I just back them to. And I think you hedging the defence is fine. But triple up for me just isn't there. It just isn't there for me. Firstly, there's not enough Arsenal defenders that get defensive contributions to go alongside the clean sheet that they're getting. If I was to triple up, then what would it be? Raya, Gabriel and Timber? Yeah, then I like that triple up. But I like having the door open for an Arsenal attacker. I would start Caicedo over Reinders. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I would. I would start Caicedo over Reinders. I own 2 Palace and think it's enough, although I like that. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. Best captain differentials. Look, if we're looking at captain differentials this week, then let me just get it up a minute. Let's take a look at what we actually have as differentials. So first we've got that guy Welbeck, differential opportunity. Arsenal, Saka is a differential captain 100% and probably the best of the bunch. I think Voldemada is a decent option against that West Ham team. Outside of that, I'm going to be honest, I don't think there are loads of fantastic differential captains. So it probably would be Welbeck of your own or Saka. Mateta is going to be a differential, not in ownership, but from a captaincy perspective. I see we got a super chat here from Mikey. Is it Mickey or Mikey? Regardless, thank you so much, mate. That's really generous, actually. Thank you on that one. Hopefully I can help you out on this question. So on wildcard, Minter or Enzo. Minter allows Pope over Petrovic. Okay, so firstly, let's just get up the fixtures. Let's consider the fixtures firstly. So on wildcard, Minter or Enzo, and Minter allows Pope over Petrovic. Well, firstly, do we want Pope? Do we actually want Pope? Let's just get up the fixtures for my eyes because I can't read them on this other screen. So Newcastle coming up. How many clean sheets are we anticipating for Pope? I mean, West Ham, I could see it. Brentford, yeah. City, no, not really. Everton, yeah. Spurs, maybe not. Burnley. So I like Pope as a pick. I think he's a steady Eddie pick. In terms of Petrovic, you're not really reaping the rewards this week, but then afterwards, I think they're not too bad. Minter versus Enzo, again, very hard to compare because Enzo is one of those that's going to be on penalties until Palmer returns. But Brighton don't have European football and they do have a nice mix of fixtures longer term. I also think Minter is better this week. So it's funny, with your question there, it's quite a hard one to say for this week because it's basically Minter plus Pope. It's Minter plus Pope or Enzo plus Petrovic. And I actually think Minter plus Pope will get the returns this week. Enzo Petrovic really is not the week to get the returns in game week 10. But I think longer term, Enzo and Petrovic is probably a better use of your money. So what would I conclude on that? What would I conclude? I would also say Enzo allows you to pivot away from him if you need to later on to another option at that price point. If you stick with Minter, you are then sat at the 6 million price bracket, which there will be options available at that price, but you might need some money to upgrade. So what I would say is this. I probably would say Enzo and Petrovic, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think you get any returns this week. Whereas Minter and Pope, I think you get like straight away returns in your team. So Mickey, let me know a bit more on that question if you want me to elaborate a bit more. Long-term Enzo and Petrovic, short-term Minter and Pope. And don't put another super chat, by the way. Just ask another question. Don't put another one, mate, on that. Is Semenyo to Minter sideways? I just think it is a move that absolutely could pay off this week. Like, let's be honest. Minter at home against Leeds, Semenyo away against Man City. If there ever was a time to make that move, it's now. Have I seen anything from Semenyo or Bournemouth to suggest getting rid of Semenyo? No. So I just think that's a real high risk move that could bring rewards, but I just think it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Ollie, yeah, I made 4 free transfers. However, the other draft involved taking a -8. Wanted to get your opinion on it because it's risky, but could pay off. Ollie, let me take a look now while we're on the stream. But I'm going to be honest with you, mate. I think I've only ever said once yes to a -8. I'm going to be honest. So the team there, you've already made your moves. So you're basically saying, I've currently made 2 teams with 4 free transfers to the bank. One of the drafts uses all free transfers and the other 2. So basically the difference is you're bringing in you're bringing in Mbeumo for... So you're doing Gyökeres down to Thiago. So you're doing Gyökeres to Thiago and then you're upgrading Caicedo to Mbeumo. No. That is not worth a -8 at all, mate. If that does pay dividends, then I apologise. But, mate, for a -8, getting rid of Gyökeres and not replacing it with an Arsenal attacker against Burnley, nah, not worth it. Not worth it on that one. Who to bench, Caicedo or Semenyo? For me, it's Caicedo. For me, it's Caicedo on that one. Do I think that Caicedo probably outscores Semenyo? Yes. But Semenyo, absolutely has the tools available to hurt Man City in this sort of game. The only thing I will say is, people make the argument, yeah, but Semenyo's going to hit City on the counter. Pep's thinking that. We're not going to get to the game and Pep afterwards is going to go, I just didn't see Semenyo hitting us on the counter. They're going to do everything they can to stop Semenyo on the counter. Reason being, they'll play Kusanov as opposed to Rico Lewis, for example. So, it's just one of those where, do I think Semenyo has the tools to hurt Man City? 100%. Does Pep Guardiola know that and will put a plan in place to stop it? Yes. And do I think he's got the players this season to stop it? more so than he did last time, or at least what they had available to them. Mickey, yeah, follow-up question. So I have Verbruggen as a second goalkeeper for this week and covers the other poor fixtures for Bournemouth. Thank great advice, and I'm leaning Enzo for the price point. I love the Wolves fixture. Yeah, so I think that's exactly it, mate. I think the Minter fixture this week absolutely could pay dividends, and we do have to remember that European football is a big factor. But do I think European football negatively impacts Enzo? No, I don't. Whereas we're talking about Crystal Palace, and I think actually European football hinders the team in general. I think Chelsea got the depth in order to balance it out. So yeah, I'm going to be honest, I think that will pay off this week, Minter. But I think over the next 6 game weeks, like you said, just look at Chelsea, Wolves, Burnley, like good enough fixtures for Enzo to almost outscore Minter in that one single game week. And what I do like as well is, like you said, if you go for Enzo and suddenly Minter just is that guy, very easy to go down to Minter as opposed to going up from Minter. The more I look at the players available at Minter's price and below, once you go there, you ain't really getting back out of there unless you make multiple transfers. Bruno or Mbeumo on wildcard. Yeah, this is the big one right now. This is the big one because we have to remember Mbeumo is going to African Cup of Nations. So you are basically going to have to sell him in game week 15, 16, whenever he does go off on the African Cup of Nations. Sorry, my head's completely gone there. You're going to have to sell Mbeumo when he goes to African Cup of Nations. You don't have that problem with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno has more avenues to points, defensive contributions. He gets any sort of return. He picks up bonus points because of what he does. Just in terms of the bonus point metrics, he just hits them. So for me, I think the answer is short-term Mbeumo. I think it is Mbeumo right now. And that saving just allows you to do a bit more with your team, I think. Manoj is saying, hi, can you give me a starting 11 for my team? Raya or Dubravka in goal? Well, the answer is Raya. I can see Beto in your team. Straight away, I'm thinking that guy's got to be benched. So, Tarkowski, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Anderson, Senesi. Okay, so straight away, Senesi goes on that bench, straight out the bat. Mbeumo, start. Semenyo, Rice, Bruno Fernandes, Longstaff's on the bench. And then I think it's pretty simple. I think you play a back four of Tarkowski, Gabriel, Van Dijk, and Anderson. You bench Senesi. You play Mbeumo, Semenyo, Rice, and Bruno Fernandes. Bench Longstaff. And you play Haaland, Welbeck, and bench Beto. I'd be pretty content with that. Reinders or Minter. Yeah, that's true. Thanks for your input. No words at all on that one. God AEM saying Raya, Timber, Gabriel, Chow, Munoz, King, Sarr, Semenyo, and Dai, Ekatike, Haaland, bench Dubravka. Yes, I agree. João Pedro, Tarkowski, and Doku. Strong bench. One that I would say to you, bench boost maybe? Maybe a bench boost on that regard. If you have it available, I'd be looking to do it. I would do it that week and get it done. Let me know if you've got your bench boost available. If you do, just get it done. My team for Game Week 10. Pope, Burn, Gabriel, Munoz, Eze, Enzo, Gakpo, Semenyo, Voltemada, Haaland as captain, Mateta. Yep, like that team. Really do like that team. I moved Tarkowski to Chow. I already had Raya and Gabriel. Is Chow a good move? Yeah, it sounds like Chow's actually the starter really for Newcastle, so I do like that. Bench Semenyo or Xhaka for me. You got to bench Xhaka. I know he's got like probably more steadier points, but Semenyo is just like a tough guy to bench. Now, if you guys give me 2 seconds, I'm just going to quickly bring up, not on here, by the way, just on my phone, just to see if I'm missed any sort of like breaking news that maybe all of us have missed. I'm just going to put up my team right now for where I'm actually sat right now. I'll give you guys a bit of an update on where my thoughts are with the team. And remember, if you just joined, do not be worried. The deadline is not at 11. It is 1:30 today because of no lunchtime kickoff, which is killer for me because I got football, so I'm going to miss in the deadline myself. Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Yes, okay, so just having a look right now. Cool. There's nothing. There's nothing out there. So, sorry, I was just spending a bit of time just seeing if there's any news on Twitter. Maybe there's some things like, oh, this guy's out. Da, da, da. Nothing. So, let me be selfish for 2 seconds. I apologize, guys. Just to give you my thoughts on my team. So, I came on this stream with the plan of doing Tarkowski to Richards and Reinders to Sarr. As of right now, I feel like I just don't want to make another move. I'm just looking at those Palace fixtures and they are horrendous. They're so bad long term. Do I think I reap the rewards short term? Yes. Do I think Reinders is a sell? Yes, 100%. The thing I need to ask myself is, if I don't sell Reinders this week, who becomes the player to sell him to next week? Because there's no world I'm keeping Reinders long term. So the thing about it is, if I want to get Minter, it's now. Like, you've got to get him now for the Leeds game. But if I postpone Reinders sold this week, what am I really gaining next week? So if I just bring up the fixtures right now and we do a rolling week. So let's go to game week, Let's go to game week 11. This is based on difficulty, fixture difficulty. So go to game week 11, slightly changed its outcome. Man United are now top, but doing Reinders to any Man United midfielder is almost impossible. I would need loads of funds to do so. Again, Palace remain up there, but again, we need to consider other things. Liverpool, I can't get to a Liverpool player. Forest start to emerge, but again, who's the guy at Forest? I think I need lots of game weeks to understand who that guy is. Villa could be an option, but you tell me who that Villa guy is. So my issue right now is, I think Reinders could actually do fine for me this week. And I don't actually love the Ismaila Sarr pick. And in particular, I don't love the Richards pick in defence either. But I'm going to want to sell Reinders regardless in game week 11. And does anybody else emerge as a pick the following game week? Not really. So I think for that, I might just get it done. A Reinders to Sarr and Tarkowski to Richards, and it just is what it is. I will make the move on this stream, but I might just have to have a bit more of a thought process before I actually pull the trigger on it. Gordon, no, not late. Late to this stream, yes, but not late to the deadline, because that is at 1:30 later on. Who to start, Caicedo or Chris Richards this week? I would start Chris Richards and hope he starts. On wildcard, Chow plus Minter. Oh, by the way, I could just do Reinders to Minter. That's actually a good shout. I could just do Reinders to Minter as a bit of a short-term punt, but I just don't really know if it benefits my team long-term, that's all. Chow plus Minter or Anderson plus Ndai as a 4-5 defender and midfielder for rotation, thanks. I prefer Anderson and Ndai myself. On wildcard, Raya, and I would not be doing Semenyo for Mbuemo this week, no. Ollie, should you be doing a bench boost this week with your team? Sorry, there's so many things that I go through here. No, Ollie, I was chatting to somebody else on that one, mate. I wouldn't be doing a bench boost for yourself. Your bench boost is going to consist of Gudmundsson, Senesi, and Caicedo. That's not worth it. Get Enzo. Enzo, yeah. Gui or Reinders, whom to start? I probably would start Reinders. Go Reinders to Gakpo. Not a huge fan of that one myself. This might be the plan for me over the next few weeks. Burn to Timber. Yep. Enzo to either Rice Kudus or Pedro Neto. And Gakpo to either using him as a route to Pedro Neto. Yeah, but I don't mind those moves. I don't mind those moves. Van Heck, Enzo to bench. My starting defenders are Gabriel, Munoz, and Virgil. Okay, that explains it then. Yeah, that explains it. I honestly think Van Heck outscores Enzo. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he probably does. Should I captain Saka instead of Haaland this week? Connor, that all comes down to you. I personally am just... Haaland's numbers are too much of a joke to not go there. Captaining Gyökeres, I do wish you well on that one. Play Reece James or Van der Ven. They both play each other. Oh, I'd probably go Reece James myself. I'd probably go Reece James. Rory, hope you well, mate, from South Africa. May have missed it, but Reinders or Semenyo to play. Ugh, I'd probably go Semenyo. The reason being is this. No guarantees Reinders starts and no guarantees Reinders plays more than 70 minutes. Semenyo plays 90 and is on penalties, we think. So, well, Cliver actually might take penalties, so kind of cut that part. But for me, 90 minutes Semenyo is better than that of 70 of Reinders. Yeah, that's kind of like the way I land on it right now. Just going to check quickly to see if there is anything, again, online. If there's anything come out, I appreciate the deadline's not for a long time. So I'm just going to see if there's anything. And guys, I'm probably going to go for another like 10 minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up. Also, but again, loads can happen today, so there will be a lot of people online, 11 onwards, I imagine. Reinders or Paqueta, I mean, I just have no idea really if Paqueta's a pick. I won't be buying either. I probably will start Reinders over Paqueta. So I'm just checking right now to see if there's anything on here. Is anybody deliberating selling Semenyo? I do get it why people are putting it in the chat. I do think there will be a moment where we have that decision to be made. And this always happens in FPL where there's a player who's a bandwagon, everybody owns him. And then you get to the moment where the returns are starting to dry up. And you do ask the question, is it actually really worth it? Dimanjan, that all comes down to who you're selling in those positions as opposed to who you're buying. What do I think about triple captain in Voltamada? I don't love it myself. I think I'd rather wait for Haaland. Just to give you guys some context. In terms of Erling Haaland, who is probably the safest captain that we can go for, the opportunities you have, Leeds at home in 13, Sunderland at home in 15, West Ham in 17. I think there's enough weeks to justify holding out for Haaland, I think. Sorry guys, I was just checking out this a minute. Best 4.3 million defender to buy. The budget's tight. Gary, I think you go down to the Sunderland defenders then, really. I don't think there are many clean sheets on the horizon. Otherwise, someone like a Rodon is not a bad pick either, if you want to go there. Porro to Timber or João Pedro to Mateta, only one free transfer left. I probably would go Pedro to Mateta myself. Thoughts on Bruno to Saka? Well, sorry, on that question, over the next 3-4 game weeks, I think Porro to Timber is the better move because João Pedro does have good fixtures and Porro doesn't. So I actually do think Porro to Timber is good, but you just have to then sit there with João Pedro. That's all. So I take that back kind of. I actually do think Porro to Timber reaps more rewards over the period. I prefer in Diet Sunderland to João Pedro against Spurs, yes. Start Chalobah or Senesi? Ugh. I probably would start... I think both concede. I probably would start Senesi controversially on that one. At least I know he's definitely playing. My centre-backs are Gabriel Van der Ven, Richards, Burn, and Concert, and goalkeepers are Sells as Africa. I have 0 point there. Should I sell Sells for pay? No, I've covered this one, mate. Keep your players this week. Literally no point buying Bournemouth. Munoz and Buemo versus Richards and Bruno on wildcard. For me, that is Munoz and Buemo. Munoz and Buemo would be far too tempted not to go there, I believe. Should I transfer out Bowen or will I hold for the Burnley game? If I had Bowen and I didn't have Mateta, I would be going there. How do you rate my defence? Pope, Gabriel, Mukiele, Timber, Munoz starting and Chalobah on the bench. Yes, I agree on the bench of Chalobah. I think that's not too bad. Joe saying, great content, Nacho. Thank you very much. Keep it up. Appreciate it, buddy. Bench Sanchez or Dubravka. I think both will concede, so who will get more saves? I agree. I think both will concede, definitely. Oh boy. Oh boy. I think Dubravka gets more saves, I think. Dubravka gets more saves, but I think there's more of a world that Sanchez does keep a clean sheet. So for that reason, I would go Sanchez. I think Burnley definitely concede. Whereas, like, Sanchez, could I see a world where, like, Spurs are a bit blunt in the final third? Yeah, I could. I think they have been quite blunt in the final third. Do I think Chelsea are horrendous at set pieces? Yes, and I do think Spurs probably do score a set piece against Chelsea. Yeah, the transfers I'm making this week is still difficult, I'm going to be honest with you. I think if I do Reinders to Minter is nice and it's good this week, but I don't really think it does much for my team in the future. That's the only problem. I think it becomes a player that I get a little bit stressed out about. If I play Saar there, 0.4, and if we drop out Tarkowski, it really is 5.1 million to get someone in. Now, I think the planner is probably where we need it here. If we just get the planner up a minute. So my team currently was intended to do this, but like I said, I got 5.1 million to spend on defenders here. Oh, I can't really filter it by that, but 5.1 million for a defender who rotates well with the rest of my team. I mean, I need to find somebody tasty. I need to find somebody out there. Lacroix, but I just don't think it's worth the 0.5 million over. Chow, I think's fine, but I don't love it. So I think it does come down to Richards, if I'm going to be honest, and then it frees up funds in the rest of the team. But if I wanted to be safe, then, yeah, Lacroix comes in. And I do that if I really wanted to, and then, you know, but I just don't know if there's enough of a reason to go Lacroix over Richards. That's currently where I'm at. And like I said, I could easily just roll my transfer. All my other transfers. It all comes down to Reinders. If I was to, you know, revert these moves and I just do that, in game week 11, my team looks like this. And then there is a real urgency for me to get rid of Reinders this week. But then who am I buying? Like, no. I could go get Enzo, I guess, this week if I wanted to. Comes down to Sar again. No, not really. No. So straight away, I'm like, well, I'm going to need Sar regardless in my team for this week as well, it seems. So why don't I just get it done now? That's all. That's my big deliberation. That's why I do think the Sar move just makes a lot of sense. And then Tarkowski to Richards and just get it done. Lacroix is a big differential. I do agree on that. Like, I don't see how Richards outscores Lacroix, for example. Does the money need to be there in Lacroix? That's the big thing. Do I think he offers enough? Not really. Not really. Can I get to Munoz? Not really. Could I do Munoz instead of Tarkowski and then Minter instead? That's quite exciting. Ash is saying overthinking. I do agree. I do agree on that one. Slightly overthinking. I think that's always what happens with 3 transfers. But that's not a bad combination, actually. I would be quite intrigued. Which do you prefer? Tarkowski and Reinders to... Basically, both these combinations include Tarkowski out, but Munoz plus Minter or Richards plus Sar. Both of these combinations include selling Tarkowski and selling Reinders. Play 2 of Alderete, Rodon, Tarkowski, and Senesi. I would play Alderete and Tarkowski on that one. Start Van der Ven or Rodon. I'd play the home fixture in Van der Ven. I know it's a harder home fixture, but regardless. Should I captain Welbeck? I don't think he's a better captain than that of Erling Haaland. Fulham haven't been good in the final third, so Everton player maybe, but again, they are not great yet. That is the thing. Everton have not been very good defensively. Thoughts on Bruno de Saka and Gyökeres of Altamada, my team? I mean, yes, I do like those moves. I do like those moves. Agree, Munoz and Minter would be very differential. Why do I even have Reinders still? Exactly that. Richards plus Sar is 2 template. It is 2 template, but also I think it is a good template. If I was to make this move, the problem is Munoz, if he doesn't get attack and returns, is no better than that of Richards. But then game week 11, Munoz, Minter away against my Palace, which is not ideal. And then game week 12, the team would look like this. Would you start Alderete or João Pedro? I think if you own João Pedro and you're not going to sell him, you've got to start him, basically. That's the way I look at it. Who to start between Paqueta and King, or take a -4 and replace Paqueta with Enzo? I probably would start Paqueta and just hope West Ham actually do okay. We'll just start. I covered that one off there. Right. I think I'm going to have to wrap it up here. Because I've got to do a little bit more before I actually check out for the day and head to football. So just for a bit of context, look, realistically, do I think this team could go ahead? Yes. Do I think I just want to get rid of Reinders? Yes. So there is a real good chance that I do Richards and Sar. Like, there is a really good chance I do make that move. I'm going to be honest. Am I fully sorted yet? No. I do think that is probably the direction that I do go in, because I just think Sarr's a really good pick, better than that of Minter, and I actually think Richards is value-wise as good as Munoz, personally. I mean, what are the Palace points scoring right now for defenders? Richards is 10 behind Munoz. It's like, it's difficult. So yeah, I think we're going to call it there. I think I will make these moves that you can see on the screen. I know they're boring, but I think they do pay off for my team. Munoz and Minter is a temptation, I will say. So let's wrap it up. Thanks so much, guys, for checking in. I do apologise. It is a bit of an earlier stream, but you are in luck. There is going to be so many people live in the next 20 minutes up until the deadline. I unfortunately won't be one of those, but I do wish you guys well. Have an amazing game week. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in on this one. I do appreciate it. It's been a decent stream. Hopefully we covered off a lot of the good stuff. If you can drop a like, and of course, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. It's always massively appreciated. And I'll see you probably Sunday on a bit of reflection of the games. And yeah, take care. Have a great one. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful weekend.